The guest of honor, Professor Pita McPhee, Deputy Vice Chancellor, and fellow colleagues. My presentation today will be on the use of e-portfolio in the UU 100 course, which was our pilot study course. And my colleague Pita, who is based at Vanuatu, we have done an audio recording of his session, and midway through the presentation, he'll take over from there. Javed, the UU 100 course coordinator, also assisted us in preparing for this presentation. So, the overview, I'll be looking at e-portfolios and some of the benefits, the teaching and learning processes, and how we went about selecting a system, an e-portfolio system for USP, and how we implemented it on the UU 100 course. A major part of the presentation will actually look at the evaluation, the student evaluation of the use of e-portfolio. We'll present the results and what are some of the conclusions we can draw from that study. So what is e-portfolio? E-portfolios have many definitions, and generally they're defined by the purpose. But essentially an e-portfolio is an electronic collection of students' digital artifacts and their reflection. So when I'm saying students' digital artifacts, I'm looking at things like students' work, such as lab reports, field trip photographs, assignments, projects, oral seminars. Those are students' digital artifacts which they uploaded on their portfolio. But the key aspect of an e-portfolio is actually on the reflection the students make on those artifacts. And I'll be talking more about reflection in my next slide. Generally, e-portfolio is considered as both a process and a product. A process, when I say, I mean it's a series of activities which happens over time, which eventually leads to the end product, which is the portfolio itself. So it is both the whole process and as well as the end product itself. And generally, we have got like 3 different types of e-portfolios. The learning e-portfolios are the ones that looks at or they focus on students' evaluation and reflection on their artifacts, and as well as their interactions with with their peers and with their colleagues. Emphasis over here is on the process aspect of e-portfolios. A showcase e-portfolio is one which demonstrates competencies and achievements, and emphasis over here is the end product, the end product of the whole process. And the last one is the assessment e-portfolio. An assessment e-portfolio is generally an e-portfolio which is used as a piece of course assessment. It can be both. It can be emphasizing on the process only, or it can be emphasizing on the end product only, but most of the time it looks at both the process and the product. Yeah. Okay, so what are the benefits of e-portfolios? The first benefit is, there are many benefits as well, but I've just noted down 3 which is suited to our context right now. Is promotes critical thinking through artifact creation and revision and reflective practices. Critical thinking, as you know, is one of the major institutional outcomes from the whole STAR project and graduate attribute. So how does it promote critical thinking? Any form of creation, generally in education, is seen to be a higher order active learning process. So through that it promotes critical thinking. But not just only creation, but the selection process is made during that creation, and the revision of the creation is considered promoting critical thinking. And more importantly is the reflective practice which the students do on these artifacts. When I say reflective practices, these are things like students reflecting on the lessons they have learned from the experience of creating the artifact. What are the critical incidences which happen during the artifact creation process? And reflection can take place at several points in time. It can be at the beginning of creating an artifact, during the process of creating the artifact, or it can be right after the student has finished creating the artifact. Yeah. So that's one major benefit of e-portfolios. Another major benefit of e-portfolios is that it provides an opportunity to connect formal learning with non-formal learning. Most of the assessments in our courses, they mainly assess formal learning. But in reality, the holistic development of a student, of an individual, sometimes take place in non-formal learning situations, such as being part of some volunteer work, or being part of some sports team, or being part of a student association work, community engagement stuff. So what ePortfolio does, it provides students to store evidences from these non-formal learning situations and thresh out what are the things they have learned from these non-formal learning situations. I'll give an example. For example, if you have a student who does a day of volunteer work at a local church, at the end of the whole volunteer work, the student can write a reflective piece on what are the lessons he or she has learned from doing that particular volunteer work. He or she can also get a reference letter from the church minister and upload it onto the student portfolio. Other students can come in and comment on his or her volunteer work as well. From that non-formal learning situation, the student can demonstrate things like community engagement, volunteer work, leadership. So I can just think of right now 3. But then, and he can put it up, or he or she can put it up on the ePortfolio and show people that this is the skills he have attained, or show himself that these are the skills he have attained, which otherwise would not be possible, because very rarely our systems and processes looks at providing evidence from non-formal learning situations. So I think ePortfolio, it connects learning, formal learning with non-formal learning. And the last one is, I don't know why I put the last one, but I think the overarching one is that ePortfolios, they provide evidence, and as well as it provides students to store artifacts from various learning experiences they have made throughout the university life, which leads to their gradual and comprehensive development of the graduate attributes within them. And as you know, as the university is moving forward with the STAR project, and graduate attributes is one of the major things from there. So the ePortfolios provides that opportunity for students to link everything they have learned, either in formal, non-formal learning situations, to the graduate attributes. So a student can go in at any point of their university life and go and see what attributes have been achieved, and what level have been achieved, and what have not been achieved yet, or where the student needs to concentrate to do more work in that area. Not only the students' stakeholders, such as the sponsors can go in and have a look at their portfolio and see how the students are performing in terms of the graduate attributes. So those are the benefits, some of the major benefits. Moving on to the ePortfolio system at USP, in 2009, we formed a working group. It was called ePortfolio Working Group, which consisted of instructional designers, education technologists, and the UU100 teaching staff. The main purpose of that working group was to identify an ePortfolio system and have it piloted and implemented at the 4 university courses over here. So we looked at 3 systems, ELK, Mahara, and MyStuff. And after an intensive evaluation process, we eventually decided to go with Mahara. The reason being because Mahara was very well integrated with our existing learning management system, Moodle. And it was free and open source, which means we could easily go in and customize it to suit our needs. So we selected Mahara, and we implemented it, or piloted it on UU100 course in semester 2 of last year. The UU100 is a generic compulsory undergraduate course which looks at information, communication, and literacy. And it was the first time being offered at USP, and ePortfolio was being used for the very first time at USP, and it was the very first time that ePortfolio is actually being used for assessment purposes at USP. And if you can look at it, this was the entire assessment breakdown of the UU100 course in semester 2 2010. And ePortfolio contributed the most, the major chunk of the assessment, which was 40%. So we're pretty excited that this was the first time ePortfolio was being used, Yeah, and we really wanted to know how the students think of it, how the students react to the use of e-portfolios. So just a brief overview of how the e-portfolio assessment was carried out. There were weekly lab activities throughout the semester, and then from that weekly lab activities there were 10 mini assessments, and these mini assessments reinforced what was covered in the weekly lab activities and the course notes. And these are the 10 assessments which the student has to put up on the e-portfolio together with the reflections and summaries. Now the student has the whole of the semester to do their e-portfolio work, the 10 mini assessment, the whole the reflection and summaries, and they have to submit their e-portfolio for marking in week 15. So this is how generally the UU 100 e-portfolio assessment was structured. This is an example of a student e-portfolio of last year. This is just the first slide is giving an indication of some basic information about the student. The second slide is showing some of the weekly assessments and the lab activities which the student had to do. At the end of the semester, we carried out we wanted to look at the attitudes of students for assessment and learning. So we had like 3 methods of evaluation. We had the end of semester survey, specifically looking at e-portfolio use. We had the observation of the student e-portfolios and the UU 100 e-portfolio assessment summary. For this presentation, we're presenting findings from the end of semester survey and the e-portfolio assessment summary. Okay, the UU 100 e-portfolio survey. The survey had 39 questions, out of which 36 was Likert scale questions, and they were hosted on a free online survey tool called SurveyMonkey. A link to it was available from the Moodle course page of UU 100. So students were given, and this was from week 14, so students had 3 weeks to complete the survey, and it was optional for students to take. My colleague Pita will take it over from here. We have audio recorded his session, so he'll be presenting the results for this survey.
UU 100 students of semester 2 2010 were spread over the listed 9 campuses and centers. Obviously, students from these campuses and centers were represented in the survey. The majority of the surveyed students, 86%, came from Nodala, who also made up the bulk of the enrollments for UU 100. However, of the total 1,815 students enrolled in the UU 100 course for semester 2 2010, only 279 or 15% attempted the survey. Of the surveyed students, 60% were female and 40% male. One of the reasons suggested for the poor response was the timing of the survey, which was around about week 14, when students were busy completing their final e-portfolios. This is being addressed in the current offering, where a similar survey will be conducted around week 10. With regards to the use of e-portfolios for learning, about 80% of the students surveyed indicated that they would use e-portfolios to help them develop their skills and knowledge. According to e-portfolio researchers Constantino and Di Lorenzo, the process of developing a portfolio requires that the students become more responsible for integrating and documenting the knowledge, dispositions and skills learned through their courses and experiences. The process of reflecting and documenting what they learned is highly empowering and contributes to their self-confidence. This probably sums up what is happening with this 80% of respondents. Similarly, an overwhelming majority, or approximately 83%, of respondents agreed that they would use an e-portfolio to monitor their skills and knowledge development over time. If students keep to their word and are given the opportunity to use e-portfolios to document and reflect on their learning over the 4 years of their university studies, it will be an improvement to current learning and teaching practice at USP. Here are some other results for questions related to using e-portfolios for learning. The majority of respondents, 80%, thought that viewing their peers' e-portfolios would be a valuable learning experience. A slightly lesser percentage, 75%, also generally agreed that they could learn their mistakes through e-portfolios, with 71% of students planning to continue to enhance their e-portfolios for learning, for lifelong learning. Overall, 78% of respondents had a positive attitude towards the use of e-portfolios for learning. 13% were not sure, while 9% had a negative disposition to the use of e-portfolios as a learning tool. Further, deeper studies have been started to find out the specific reasons for the negative attitude of this minority towards e-portfolios, with a view to addressing them through improved resources, teaching, and support. With regards to the use of e-portfolios for assessment, a total of 73% of respondents felt that an e-portfolio was a better way for lecturers to assess their knowledge. Similarly, 73% of respondents indicated that they felt comfortable with an e-portfolio being used as an assessment in a course. This was interesting in that these were students for whom e-portfolios was a new concept and was the major assessment, with 40% in their course. Overall, a total of 72% of students in the survey responded positively to the use of e-portfolios for assessment in their current courses and in future courses. This number was slightly less than the overall number of students who agreed with the use of e-portfolios for their own learning, which was 78%. This positive attitude towards the use of e-portfolios for assessment was going to be illustrated in the results of the final 40% major e-portfolio assessment. The results of the e-portfolio assessment, as has been alluded to earlier, seem to confirm the students' comfortability and positive attitudes towards e-portfolios, as indicated in the survey results. Apart from the marshals, which had a low pass rate of 57% in this assessment, the rest of the campuses and centers seem to do well, with recorded pass rates ranging from 82% in Lauvala to 100% for UU 100 students in the Solomon Islands campus. A total of 1,597 e-portfolios, or 88%, were submitted for marking, with a number of students dropping out or not submitting because they had not participated in the mandatory number of labs to be able to successfully complete their portfolios. The overall pass rate was 83 for this assessment, and the average mark 26.7 out of a possible 40.
Let's quickly wrap up the conclusion section. From the study, we can determine that the majority of the students, they consider the use of e-portfolio a useful learning and assessment tool. There were a minority of students who had issues and did not understand the use of e-portfolio in their course, which we are doing further studies to analyze, like what are the reasons they had these problems. And one of the things which we noticed was because the e-portfolio was being submitted on the last week or the week 15 of the semester, there was no way of providing them with feedback. So now what we have done as from this semester, we've got 2 checkpoints. So students, they submit the first part of the e-portfolio before mid-semester break, and the next part they submit it after the mid-semester break. So, yeah, and right now we are liaising with some more USP colleagues to get their courses on e-portfolio or using e-portfolio from next semester. Right. Thank you.